Hi, dancers. Sorry there were no videos last week. I had a couple of things go wrong, as they usually do with me. It was like a pet emergency, and then like a no money emergency, and then I was supposed to work like a dance gig to make real money, so I was like trying to shuffle my schedule around for that, and then that fell through, so then even less money, and then like I just couldn't get into the studio. And then also the days that I am here, the little bit of time that this studio is available and open after class is over, I've been rehearsing the Grand Pas de Deux from Don Quixote with my teacher, mentor, partner. So, you know, I only have about a half hour to myself in the empty studio after class before like another class comes in. So most of that time has been rehearsing. I'm sure I could film some of the partnering rehearsal and maybe even give tips about partnering, because I am a beginner with partnering. I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. Anyway, today's tutorial is about back flexibility. This topic has been sitting on my to-do list for a very, very long time, and I feel like I've been neglecting the questions. So I want to answer a couple of more questions before I start making more like non-tutorial videos, just so that, you know, people aren't like waiting around forever for answers. So back flexibility. The number one hint I want to give you about back flexibility when you're thinking about your back is to think of it bending from under your shoulder blades, not down here. I know down here, your lower spine, your lumbar spine feels the easiest to bend because you can kind of just like stick your hips out and like stick your belly out, and this, you have a more natural curve right here. So this would seem like the place to bend if you want your back to look bendy, but I actually am advising against that. This is not where you want to get all your bending from in ballet. You can injure yourself, and look, it throws off your alignment, your hips are coming out. It's quite hard to do this while maintaining your turnout. It's hard to do this while squeezing your butt and lifting your body. So I don't want you to think of your back as bending from here. I want you to think of your back bending from under your shoulder blades. And there are a couple of reasons for this. When you bend from your upper back, it forces you to lift more. And when you lift more, you look longer. And that's the whole goal in ballet, is to look as long and stretchy as we can. So which looks more impressive, a big, long, stretched out arch, or like a big, long, stretched slinky, or a short, little, tiny, like crunched curve? So, you know, think of like the tiny slinky just sitting there. That doesn't look too impressive, right? I mean, it's bending, but it looks kind of small and weak and short. Or if you stretch it and lengthen it first, that looks longer, it looks like there's more of a curve. So by lifting from your lower back first, and then bending from your upper back, that is actually going to make you appear longer than if you were to just bend from here. Okay, so you want that lift. It's also safer, because if you just bend right here and squish all of these little vertebrae, you could get a very bad back injury, and it could start to affect your hips, and right around here is your sciatic nerve. So if you fuck up something around here, it could potentially spread to your legs, and then you're not able to walk, and then you're not able to dance. So that doesn't help anybody. Also, if you are in an arabesque, and right now I'm just going to be lazy and put my leg on the bar for an arabesque just to show you. I'm not in the mood to hold my leg in the air right now. But if you're in an arabesque, look, you already have bending action right here happening in your lower back. So where do you have to go if you want to bend more or bring your leg up higher? You can't bend more here. It's already scrunched, so you kind of make room for your leg by pushing the shoulder forward. So most of your bending comes from the shoulders. So right now my shoulders are the thing that's up. My shoulders are the thing that's got to like bend back. If I were to just focus on this curve down here, I can't go very far. So if you want back flexibility, you really have to use your upper back. So if I want to keep going and keep bringing my leg up, I make room for it by letting my shoulders go. And granted, you are squeezing and contracting a lot right here. This gets very sore, and I talk about this in the arabesque video that I made. But as far as making your back look more bendy, you have to use more of your back, and that means using more of it up here, not just down here. Also, in general, in ballet, when we move our upper body, we try to keep it separate from our hips. So if you've ever seen one of those weird, like, anatomically correct dolls that have, like, all the movable joints and stuff, a lot of the times they have, like, kind of like a ball where their belly is, and then their rib cage goes over the ball, and they pivot from the ribs. That's kind of what it should feel like in ballet. So if you want to bend, you really got to think of bending from up here, not down here. You see the difference? Me trying to bend from my shoulders forces me to lift and think of going up and back, rather than just lower back bends. There's a difference. Once you've used all of your upper back, then you can get the extra little bit with your lower back, but that should be at the end, if at all. When I'm standing at the bar in ballet class and we're doing our first pliés and our first port de bras front and back, when I go back, I give myself a little bit of an inhale. And I don't want you to inhale and puff out your chest, because the goal is to kind of keep the front of your body kind of contracted and closed, like you're closing a pocketbook. So you kind of want to keep this flat and down, but I think of the breath going into my belly and my back. So I almost think of giving myself a little air cushion right here for support, and that prevents me from squishing and crunching my lower back. So let's say I just did my first port de bras forward, come up, I'll give myself a little stretch up. Did you see how I just lengthened a little bit with that breath? It wasn't by a lot, it was probably maybe just like a quarter of an inch or something, but by doing that, I imagined that these little vertebrae kind of stretched up and separated, and I want to keep that space there. So I went, stretch it up, yes, and then keep going. And again, whenever you do port de bras to the back in ballet, your head should be to the side. Keeping your head to the side frees up this, because if you keep your head straight and you try to go back, you're going to start crunching right here, and we need all this. Now, as far as little exercises to do on your own, like in an empty studio or at home, yes, you can do all of this, like grabbing your attitude and like stretching and seeing how far it goes. That doesn't hurt, but don't put too much emphasis on this, because again, this sort of stuff is kind of utilizing your lower back. And if you're already flexible in your lower back, if you're already flexible enough to do this and you're like, oh great, I got it, then lower back flexibility is not your problem. We want you to look longer and look like you're bending more, so that means you gotta focus more on your upper back. I am going to give you some exercises for your upper back to not only get more mobility, but to strengthen it, because if you can strengthen all these muscles, you can hold it and feel more comfortable in your back bendy position. And these exercises do kind of suck. They do kind of hurt a little bit, but I'm going to show you anyway, and you'll get better and better at them, and it will help you with your strength and flexibility in your back. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I gave similar exercises in the arabesque video, so even if you don't think you have problems with your arabesque, it's worth watching, because I do give some tips on using the whole back, and it could help you get stronger and more flexible. But this video is assuming we're mostly working on flexibility, not so much strengthening. Then I'm going to tell you to do little like stretchy things like this at home. When you're watching TV and laying on your belly, you can just walk yourself up and, you know, push your shoulders down, and imagine that it's your shoulders trying to go back to your feet. And imagine that your spine is going up, and then once you can't go up and vertical anymore, then you can give the little extra push to kind of fold in half. But again, try not to crunch right here. Try to keep this supported. That's why I want you to go up first. Go up, give yourself that little breath I was talking about earlier, kind of expand these vertebrae, keep space in between them. It's up and then over. And while this feels pretty uncomfortable, you will be getting a stretch, but always do this very slowly. Always make sure you're very warmed up, yada, yada, yada. I always tell you, make sure you are warm before you do any kind of extreme stretching. Another good one is to grab your feet and then push your feet into your hands. Like you want your feet to go into the wall behind you. This is going to feel a little sore on your lower back, but you should also feel your shoulder blades kind of stretching. And you can rock back and forth, and as you rock, you'll feel different parts of your back, taking the pressure and kind of stretching out a little bit. The goal of this, when you're rocking back and forth, the goal of this is to eventually be able to sit like this. And as you pull your arms back, you'll feel more of that stretch in your upper back and in your shoulder blades. So your goal is to rock back and forth, rock back and forth. The higher you can get your feet up, the more you'll be able to rock back. And then keep pushing your feet into your hands. And you might need a mat, because to do this on a hard floor hurts my hips and it hurts my pubic bone a lot. So definitely do this on a soft surface. But you want to keep it all up. You want to be able to feel up, like this is working. So to stay here is not just lower back, it's upper back too. I'm squeezing everything. And this takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of flexibility. But you'll get there if you are careful and consistent. And then one day, you'll be able to do it and I do throw my head back for that one rather than to the side, because just that extra little weight of your head can help give you that extra little inch of stretch. And anytime you have stretched by trying to arch your back, always give yourself a little bit of the opposite stretch. Do a curled over, hunched over stretch, just to kind of get everything back in place. So if you put your heels right under your butt, sit on your heels, and just let yourself curl like this. Now we're lengthening this way. And when you're doing this stretch to just kind of even out everything that you did, to balance everything out, do a big inhale into your belly and you'll feel that stretch all of these muscles that we were just bending backwards. Whatever you do on one side of the spectrum, try to do a little bit of the opposite to bring you back into the middle. We want your spine to stay healthy.